All right, let's dive into what is, quite literally, one of the coldest unsolved cases in all of human history. We're talking about Ötzi the Iceman, a murder victim from 5,300 years ago whose body is so perfectly preserved, it's like he's ready for a modern-day forensic investigation.
And you know, this whole thing almost ended in total disaster. I mean, this quote just says it all. When the authorities first showed up, they had absolutely no clue what they were looking at. Their first thought? Just yank him out of the ice. Seriously, with brute force. Thank goodness they didn't succeed.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1991. Two German hikers, Helmut and Erika Simon, are trekking through the Ötztal Alps, right on the border of Austria and Italy. And then they spot something unusual sticking out of a melting glacier. It looked like a body, face down, with this leathery, sun-dried skin. And, you know, what would you think? Of course, they assumed it was some poor modern mountaineer who'd had a tragic accident.
And this really shows you the huge gap between what they thought they found and, well, the reality. The local police show up totally expecting to recover a recent accident victim, but as they start chipping away at that ice, the evidence just wasn't adding up. It started pointing to something much, much older.
So what were the big giveaways? Well, it was his stuff. His shoes, for one, weren't anything you'd find at a sporting goods store. We're talking these incredible handcrafted things made of deerskin and bearskin, stuffed with grass for insulation. But the real game changer, the showstopper, it was his axe, a beautifully polished blade made of pure copper. That's when the light bulb went off for everyone. This wasn't a lost tourist. They had just found a man from the Copper Age.
So who was this guy? You know, the glacier basically acted like a perfect time capsule, a 5,000-year-old deep freeze. And because of that, we can build this unbelievably detailed profile of Ötzi. I'm not just talking bones. I'm talking skin, hair, organs, even what he ate for his last meal.
Okay, so you see this number up here? Over 60? What is that? That is how many tattoos they found on his body. And we're not talking about elaborate art here, but really simple lines and crosses, all placed in very specific spots, like along his joints and back.
And this leads to a pretty incredible theory. See, when scientists analyzed his skeleton, they found he had some serious arthritis and joint pain. And guess what? The tattoos line up perfectly with those sore spots. So the leading idea here is that he wasn't getting ink to look cool. He was basically practicing a form of prehistoric acupuncture, trying to treat his own chronic pain. How amazing is that?
And let me tell you, Ötzi was no simple wanderer. This guy was the Copper Age equivalent of a hardcore survivalist. That copper axe was a huge status symbol. He had an unfinished bow, a flint knife, a fire-starting kit. He even had a primitive medical kit with a fungus that has antibiotic properties. This man knew what he was doing.
But here's the thing. A super-prepared survivalist with a priceless axe doesn't just die by accident on a mountain. No way. Thanks to modern forensics, we can actually piece together the violent, frantic timeline of his last day on Earth.
The first clues come from his stomach, and what scientists found was fascinating. He didn't just eat one last meal, he ate two. The first meal eaten hours earlier was calm, but the second one, it was eaten in a hurry. His metabolism was in full-on fight-or-flight mode. The man was literally panic-eating. So this timeline, it tells a story of a fight and a desperate escape. He starts his day down in a warm valley, having a calm meal. Then, something goes terribly wrong. He gets into a fight. We know this from fresh cuts on his hands and knuckles. Wounded, he flees, scrambling thousands of feet up into the freezing mountains. He's trying to repair his bow. He's scarfing down that last hurried meal. And then, he's struck down. And he wasn't fighting just one person. That number, 4? That's how many different types of human blood researchers found on his gear, on his knife, his arrows, his coat. And only one of those blood types was his own.
This man was busy. It's really the perfect way to put it. He wasn't just a victim running away. All the evidence points to him being an active fighter in a brutal conflict with at least 3 other people right before he was killed.
So, okay, he's got defensive wounds, there's evidence of a big brawl, but how did he actually die? For about a decade after it was found, the official story was that he just froze to death. But then, new scans revealed a hidden truth, a small, dark shape lodged deep in his shoulder.
So what was it? What was the final blow that ended this 5,300-year-old drama? What did the science finally uncover?
It was an execution, plain and simple. He was shot in the back with an arrow. He probably never even saw it coming. The The forensics are just chillingly precise. The arrow came from behind and slightly above, meaning his attacker had the high ground. It hit a major artery, and he would have bled out and died in just a few minutes. This wasn't some stray shot in a chaotic battle. This was a deliberate, lethal kill shot.
So, we know how he died, but that just blows open the biggest question of all: why? And the most confusing clue of all was found lying right there next to his body. The killer, or killers, left the axe. Now, to really get how bizarre this is, you have to understand that this copper axe was a massive symbol of status and wealth back then. Leaving it behind would be like a modern-day carjacker stealing a car but leaving a briefcase full of cash on the seat. It makes absolutely no sense. Unless, of course, the motive wasn't robbery.
So, what are the theories? Well, we can pretty much rule out a simple robbery. Could it have been a tribal conflict? Or revenge from that earlier fight? Maybe. But the most chilling theory, I think, is personal betrayal. That someone he knew, maybe even someone he trusted, followed him up that mountain and executed him. As for why? Well, that secret died with them.
It all just keeps coming back to this one question: why leave the axe? Well, maybe taking it would have been an obvious confession. I mean, you can't exactly show up back in your village with a murdered man's prized possession and expect nobody to notice. This one detail just elevates the whole crime from a simple robbery to something deeply, deeply personal.
So, after 5,300 years, the forensic side of Ötzi's case is pretty much closed, but the mystery of it all lives on. And his discovery, it's given us so much more than just a really good murder mystery.
He completely shattered our view of the Copper Age. Before Ötzi, we kind of imagined it was a simpler, more primitive time. He showed us it was anything but. It was a world of advanced technology, effective medicine, social status, and yes, brutal personal violence. It seems like humans have always been complicated.
In the end, Ötzi is this frozen witness to a single tragic human story. He's a powerful reminder that history isn't just about dates and artifacts, it's about real people. The ice gave us the how, but the why vanished with his killer. And it just makes you wonder, what other stories, what other ancient dramas are still locked away in the ice, just waiting for their own thought?